Ever get that like super creepy feeling where you feel your hand just like moving on its own
Hmm.
and it's writing down a secret message? You're like, whoa, hold on a minute. Where'd that come from? You know, that kind of weird little hand dance.
Yeah.
It might just be a glimpse into something ancient and something seriously, seriously strange. Automatic writing.
It's spooky.
Yeah.
It is really spooky.
And this whole idea of channeling spirits.
Welcome, everybody, to this deep dive.
Oh, yeah. It's fantastic to have you here today.
Thank you.
We're going to be talking about automatic writing, which also goes by the fancier name of psychography.
Psychography.
Yes. And basically, it's this idea that spirits or spirit guides or maybe even some random cosmic entity
Right.
can just take over your hand and write down messages.
Yeah.
And these are words that are appearing on paper that are supposedly bypassing your normal brain, your everyday brain.
Yeah, it's not you thinking it and making your hand write it. It's something else taking control.
Right, yeah. And this is the kind of stuff where what people claim comes out is just all over the map, right?
It really is.
There's all kinds of things you hear about.
Yeah.
It's comforting words
Mhm.
that show up just when someone really needs to hear those words. Or maybe it's those amazing light bulb moments
Yeah.
where someone feels like they just downloaded wisdom straight into their brain.
Like pure inspiration.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the really creepy stuff that just gives you the chills. Eerie predictions that come true.
Uh-huh.
Poetry that sounds like it was just whispered from another dimension.
Mm.
Or cryptic warnings that make you think, maybe I should double check all the locks, just in case.
Right. Better safe than sorry.
Yeah. And then there's even some whispers from beyond the grave
Ooh.
where people are channeling messages from people who have passed on.
That's kind of like getting your mail from a different zip code, a different reality.
Yes.
That's a great way to put it.
Like a supernatural postal service.
It really,
And this isn't some, TikTok trend or anything like that. This has been around for centuries.
it's got a long history. I always think about those Victorian era seances where people were just dying to talk to their loved ones who passed away.
Right.
And automatic writing was a tool they used in those gatherings.
It's a way to pierce the veil between worlds.
Exactly. And even before the Victorian era, we see hints of similar practices in all sorts of different cultures. We can even go as far back as ancient China.
Oh, wow.
But for a more recognizable name, you can't forget the incredible W.B. Yeats.
Oh, yeah. The poet.
Yeah, he was such a literary giant.
Huge.
And he and his wife, Georgie Hidleys, were really into automatic writing.
Oh, wow.
They believed it fueled his creative genius.
Wow, so he was channeling his poetry.
Possibly. It makes you wonder if he was just doodling or if something else was going on.
Makes you think. It really does make you think, and this kind of leads us right into the big question. What exactly is happening when someone's doing automatic writing? Is this like a direct line to the spirit world? Like a paranormal party line? Or is it just some kind of hidden wellspring of creativity that's coming up from our subconscious?
It's fascinating. What do you think?
Or is there like a more grounded scientific explanation for this?
Yeah.
Like, what the skeptics like to talk about, which is those tiny little muscle twitches and movements, that ideomotor response.
Right.
So that's what we're going to be digging into today in this deep dive.
We'll be looking at all the different angles.
Yes, and looking back at history and checking out some of the claims, some of the more recent claims around this, very strange and very real phenomenon.
It's really weird.
So if you're into exploring the unexplained, this is the deep dive for you.
Yeah, buckle up because we're about to get into it.
And if you're enjoying this deep dive into the strange world of automatic writing, please hit that follow or subscribe button.
And thanks for listening.
Yeah, we love having you along for the ride.
Okay, so let's go back and recap what we've been talking about here. Automatic writing is basically this act of writing without really trying, without your brain telling your hand what to write. And a lot of people who do this really believe it's a way of getting messages, like secret messages from some other reality.
Oh.
It's also called psychography. And for those who practice it, they believe they're being guided by something outside of themselves, like ghosts, spirit guides, or even beings from another dimension that we can't normally see.
Right.
And this has been going on for a while. It's
Yeah.
got a long history in all sorts of different cultures. Remember, we mentioned Fuji.
Uh-huh.
That's part of Chinese folk religion, and it's been around for a long time.
Wow.
It's all about receiving messages from the divine through writing.
Wow.
It's incredible, right?
That is really interesting.
Yeah.
So what about, like, in the West? Were there any, like, big names that were into this?
Oh, yeah, tons. We already mentioned W.B. Yeats,
Oh, yeah.
and we also have Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Yeah, the Sherlock Holmes guy.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
He was super into it. He even wrote about it, suggesting it could be the subconscious mind at work, or even spirits, like literally manipulating the writer.
So was he, like, a true believer in the paranormal?
He really was. And he wasn't alone. A lot of people were really interested in spiritualism in the 19th and early 20th centuries.
Right.
But it's super important to remember there are different opinions on where this automatic writing comes from. Some people, especially those involved with spiritualism, believe it's direct control by spirits.
Like they're just using your hand to write their messages?
Exactly. Like, imagine a ghost is borrowing your hand to write a letter.
It would be so creepy.
Right?
But I guess kind of cool, too,
Totally.
in a weird way. So what about, like, the people who don't think it's spirits? What are their theories?
Well, there's this whole other angle, the psychological perspective.
Yeah.
And they think it's all happening inside us, like deep down in our unconscious mind. And there are some really interesting psychological models out there that suggest that the unconscious mind isn't just like a storage space for forgotten memories, but actually a powerful processing center. And they think automatic writing could be a way to tap into that,
Yeah.
like all that deeper intelligence.
So like accessing a part of your brain that you don't normally use?
Exactly.
That is fascinating.
But then, of course, we have the skeptics,
Right, of course.
and they often point to things like the ideomotor phenomenon.
What?
The ideomotor phenomenon.
Ideomotor.
It's basically those tiny little muscle movements that we make without even realizing it.
Oh, okay.
They think things like suggestion or expectation can influence those movements without us even knowing it. So they say that's what's really happening with automatic writing.
Interesting. So like you're kind of unconsciously making your hand move.
Exactly. They also talk about subconscious creativity. They bring up things like autosuggestion,
Okay.
where you're kind of like planting an idea in your own head without realizing it.
Oh, interesting.
They also talk about auto-hypnosis.
Auto-hypnosis. What's that?
It's basically like, a light form of self-hypnosis.
Okay.
And then there's cryptomnesia. Have you heard of that?
Cryptomnesia. No, that sounds kind of like something you'd catch from a vampire.
It does, doesn't it? But no, cryptomnesia is basically when a forgotten memory pops up, like out of nowhere,
Okay.
and you think it's a brand new idea.
Oh.
It's like your brain is playing a trick on you, like pulling something out of the filing cabinet and being like, hey, look at this new information.
Like a mental magic trick.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So, as you can see, there are lots of different ways to look at this.
That is a lot of different ideas.
Yeah.
So if somebody is listening and wants to actually try this automatic writing thing, what's the first step? What do they do?
Well, usually it starts with setting the mood. Find a quiet time and space, a place where you can really relax and you won't be interrupted.
Right. Like light some candles, get the mood going.
Exactly. Make it comfy,
Yes.
And then a lot of people will think of a specific question that they want an answer to, something they're curious about or seeking guidance on.
Okay.
And sometimes they even write that question down.
So they have like a clear intention in mind.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the next part, this is key, is to quiet the mind.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You can do meditation, you can do breath work, anything that just helps you relax and let go of those racing thoughts.
Yeah, I can see how that would be important. It's kind of like when you're, really focused on something and your mind just sort of goes quiet.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you're in the flow,
Yeah.
And once you're in that nice, relaxed state, you just got to let the writing happen. You don't try to control it or judge it.
Oh, so you just let your hand go wherever it wants.
Exactly. A lot of people say they just let their hand move freely on the paper.
Wow.
And they don't consciously choose the words at all.
It just flows out.
It flows. It really does. And then comes the fun part. Interpreting what was written.
Okay.
Looking for those patterns and hidden meanings.
So like looking for sentences. Words that keep popping up.
Yeah, recurring words.
Patterns, metaphors, things like that.
All that.
So you got to be open to whatever comes out, even if it seems like gibberish at first.
Oh, absolutely. Now, those who are big believers in automatic writing, they talk about some really awesome benefits.
Okay, like what?
They say they feel calm and centered. They feel like they're getting guidance from a higher power.
Okay.
Some even talk about having more clarity and making better decisions.
Wow.
They say their intuition gets sharper, and they feel more supported and understood, on a deeper level.
Yeah, I can see how that could be really powerful, especially if you're going through a tough time.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it's super important to remember that not everyone buys into this.
Right, of course. Not everyone believes in the paranormal.
Exactly. And that's totally okay. There's a
Hmm.
whole spectrum of opinions on how legit this whole thing is.
Yeah.
Some people, it's a super personal spiritual thing, a real connection to something bigger than themselves,
Hmm.
and others are more skeptical.
Right, they see it as more of a psychological thing.
Exactly. Maybe even self-deception.
Or maybe even just like a fun experiment, you know? Just to see what your subconscious comes up with.
That's a good way to look at it, yeah.
So have there been any cases where people tried to fake it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's this famous case with Harry Price, the paranormal investigator.
Uh,
He debunked the automatic writing at Borley Rectory. Turns out it was just someone writing on the walls.
oh, like a prank?
Pretty much.
Oh, wow.
And then there was this whole Brattleboro hoax.
Wow, bro.
Yeah, someone claimed they were channeling the ending of a Charles Dickens novel.
Oh, come on.
I know, right? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
So not everything is on the up and up.
Definitely not. But, despite the hoaxes, there are still people today who claim to be doing automatic writing and genuinely believe in it.
What, like recently? Like in the past few years?
Oh, yeah. Back in the 70s, Wendy Hart said she was automatically writing about the life of a 17th century sea captain.
Wow.
And then there was Angela Della Fiora, who was part of the Stargate project. She said she got messages through automatic writing, and even David Icke and Vasula Ryden have described similar experiences.
Wow, so this is still happening today.
Absolutely. And don't forget the surrealists, like Andre Breton.
Oh, right. The artist.
Yeah, they used automatic writing to try and get past their conscious mind and just let their creativity flow.
Yeah, they were all about tapping into the subconscious.
Exactly.
So what's the advice for people who want to try automatic writing? Like, what should they keep in mind?
Well, first, like we talked about, you got to create the right atmosphere.
Yeah, find a peaceful space
Exactly. And relax your mind.
and relax.
And then, just let go. Don't try to force it. Some people also recommend doing a protection ritual or setting a clear intention, especially if you're a bit worried about, attracting any unwanted entities,
That's probably a good idea.
especially if you're new to this.
Right.
So, yeah, just be mindful, be respectful, and see what happens.
It sounds like whether you believe in the paranormal or not, automatic writing can be a really interesting way to explore your own mind.
I think so too. It makes you think about all those thoughts and ideas that might be hidden beneath the surface.
Yeah, like what's going on in that unconscious mind of ours?
Exactly. It's a bit of a mystery.
It's a mystery for sure. Well, on that note, any final thoughts for our listeners out there?
I would say if you're curious, give automatic writing a try. See what messages come through.
Even if it's just for fun?
Exactly. You might be surprised by what you discover, whether it's spirits guiding your hand or the depths of your own mind expressing itself. It's a fascinating journey.
It really is. And
Yeah.
who knows, you might even unlock some hidden creativity or wisdom that you never knew you had.
Exactly. So go for it. What have you got to lose?
Yeah, what do we got to lose?
Thanks for joining us today.
It's been a blast.
And until next time, keep those minds open and those pencils moving.
Yes, and remember to follow or subscribe to our podcast for more deep dives into the unexplained.
See you soon.
Bye.